Good morning. Today we are live with Hitesh Govind, and he is the founder of Analytic Intelligence, a company that started all the way back in 2015, and he's also the principal architect of a company called Eniro, which I hope I'm saying this right. So today we will be talking about AI, the future of AI, and yeah, a little bit of backstory about Hitesh. So thank you so much, Hitesh, for being on on our live stream today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Perfect. So, well, I just want to jump right into it and get a
hmm
little bit of feedback and a little bit of background of what your history was like, what your schooling was like, and what brought you into the technology world.
Sure. Born and raised in New Zealand, moved to the States with my wife many years ago, and it's probably the only thing I was good at school is sports and technology. So it was kind of a no-brainer. Uh, America's the lure for many people, and it's been a dream come true for us. And yeah, started off in contracting world. Then probably my first full-time job was at a very large healthcare company here in California. Always been in California since we moved here, and then moved to Microsoft and started our own company. Went full-time when generative AI came out, and it's been a ride. We started the company with a very good friend of mine, Tony. When we used to work at this healthcare company, we used to have all the big tech companies come and pitch us, and then we'll be in meetings going, "What are they talking about?" And we knew we could do things better, faster, cheaper, and sort of that's how analytical intelligence was born. And 10 years later, here we are.
Awesome. So, you were working as a principal engineer for Microsoft. Can you tell us a little bit about how it was like working for Microsoft, how you got the, the job, and yeah, any background about it?
Sure. Yeah, at the healthcare company, we were moving to Azure, so I was part of that team. And so that's where my Azure experience came in. And then we're, I think Microsoft is an incredible company to work for. I read Satya Nadella's book, and that kind of it excited me about the way he thought, the way he ran the company. There was a huge change in culture, and the folks with whom I worked with the Azure project, uh, very easy to work with, very knowledgeable, and it was exciting. Being in tech, being part of the latest and greatest was exciting. So I studied, got my Azure Solutions Architect certification and a few other certs along the way. And I believe that was, I applied for a lot of jobs at Microsoft, didn't get any responses. And then once I finished that certification, I started getting calls from recruiters. And so that's how my Microsoft journey began. And it was an incredible ride. The culture was is very collaborative. You can call anyone, message anyone, people respond. You get bonus on the number of people, not only what you do, but how many people you help. It's about the impact that you make. And it was a very hard decision to leave Microsoft. You know, yeah. So, but at the end of the day, I've always been an entrepreneur at heart, and so I cherish. That was my dream job. And being at Microsoft was an absolute dream job. But running my own company was always the dream. That was the reason we came to America. And so, yeah, uh, difficult decision, but it's been the right decision. It's been amazing. Still in touch with a lot of people at Microsoft, great friends, and many of them have moved on also to do great things.
Mhm. Nice. When you made the transition to the company Enrio, uh,
That's a partner whom I work with, yeah.
okay.
So I'm full time. AI is my company, Analytical Intelligence, and then we have a number of partnerships, and Enro is one of them.
Mm, okay. So even taking that leap, because again, like you said, working in Microsoft, it's a pretty big deal, and it's a lot of people's dream job as well. How was there a particular moment that made you want to open up or start up your own company, or like you said, was this always just something that was already just boiling in the back end for you, and it was just a matter of time for it to happen?
Yeah, great question. I think probably many people struggle with that, right? Am I good enough? Do I have enough skills? Will I succeed? The fear of failure. Where for me it was, at what point do you know enough where you could, start off on your own? And also, uh, from a, I'm much later in my career when I kind of made the move. I mean, we had the company on the side, but it was not the focus at the time. So, but at the end of the day, you have to take a leap of faith, and that's what we did. And you know, it has worked out, and it's been great. But yeah, it is a leap of faith,
Yeah.
calculated leap of faith.
Yeah, it's always nerve-wracking for anybody to make that jump, especially coming from Microsoft, but in any company really. And we touched on it a little bit of
Hmm.
why uh, why you went to started analytic intelligence, but there's something very interesting that's about the AI 360
Hmm.
platform that you're creating. Could you delve in a little bit deeper into that?
Yeah, so AI 360 is our generative AI platform. It's primarily built on Azure today. Monitoring and governance is done by Dynatrace. We're also a Dynatrace partner. And we offer, AI 360 is we offer a full service. So whether we're building custom solutions, or you're using one of our products on AI 360, that's the platform that the solutions are built. So everything from deployment, monitoring, break fix, everything is built on AI 360.
Mm,
And we'll be extending AI 360 in Q3, Q4 to AWS this year as well. So that's exciting. So yeah, AI 360 will be hybrid cloud.
amazing. I went onto the website, I think it was like last night, and I saw one of the use cases that you were using AI or somebody on your team was using AI in order to film a car, just like before you rent it out, and then to see if there's any dents rather than maybe relying on a person to actually check the car if there's any damages before it's rented out.
Hmm.
What are some of the other use cases that you can use this in real life? And what do you see a lot of people using your software for?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, the software is really the technology. So we haven't built the technology, but we build the solution. So we use Gemini, we'll use OpenAI and the GPT models. Those are the two primary LLMs that we use, and then there's the services around it. So that solution that we developed, we have three customers that are now using that technology. Every one of them wants something a little different. So the core system works, and then it's either building a UI or building a mobile app that then uses that to then further enhance or answer the question that a particular customer wants. So we always start off with attempting to understand what a customer needs, understanding the drivers behind what they are trying to do. And then, because there's a lot of hype around AI today, or Gen AI, where depending on the article you read, it's like there's a high failure rate. But I think it's not the technology that fails, it's you're failing to understand what it is that you're trying to accomplish. So that kind of led us to another product that we offer, which is AI strategies. So rather than just diving in saying, yeah, this is the new shiny tool that we want to use, let's take a step back and understand, why do you want to do it? What's your driver? What's the vision for it? Is everyone aligned in the company? What are the risks? If we can answer those, then we also got to have a high adoption rate. And then at the end of the day, what's the value? Because if you spend whatever amount of money behind a solution like this, at the end of the day, if it's not being used, it's pointless. There's no value behind it. So we run through these checklists. We'll do workshops with companies to understand really what they're after, because we want long-term customers. And we don't want customers that we build one-off solutions for and then they're like, oh, this was nice, but it really didn't serve a purpose at the end of the day. And so that's why we kind of dive into an AI strategy. We'll do a workshop. We'll then now have offering the AI strategy as a product. So for larger companies, we'll do a number of solutions that we offer. But that's kind of our approach. So yes, we're building product. Yes, we're using the technology, but now really the focus is on value. Why do we want to do this and what value are we getting? And that's how we're starting to retain long-term customers. Long answer to a short question.
No, I love those when, especially when we hear people like get very passionate about what they're doing. I think that it's always great for like delving deep into what you're passionate about. Um, Kind of also when you mentioned that too, I was thinking that we get so many requests, and we've heard so many requests of people, especially when AI came out.
Hmm.
They're like, "How can I use AI? How can I put AI into my business?" And it kind of felt like people just wanted to shoehorn AI into their company without really knowing why they wanted to put it in there. Just it became like a huge hype word for everybody. Um, with your experience in, I'm sure you saw it even back when you were working in Microsoft, and even things came to the bigger stage of AI. What have you seen like the biggest misconceptions of why people are using AI, and maybe they shouldn't be using it for that and evaluating it if it fits into their business first?
Yeah, that's a good question. How do I answer that one? Well, it's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, right? Like if you only have a hammer, that's your solution to everything, right? You treat everything like a nail. And I think that's where, again, to my previous response, where the AI strategy was born is that, I mean, we were also excited about the technology, right? We started building AI 360 out of the box and like, okay, let's build it and they will come type approach. And then we, as we started to engage companies, like you said, they were like, okay, we want AI, right? Okay, let's dive into it. We have X, Y, Z, and we want to do this, and like would charge the hill, right? And then we'd come up with a problem that we thought was real, and then as you start to engage other folks in the organization, they're like, no, that was the problem 3 months ago, but we kind of solved that. So now you've done all this work to scope a project, and you've done a quick POC. All that's wasted work because the problem isn't even real. So that's when we started to take a step back and saying, okay, it may be shiny and it may be new, but let's be real about why we're doing it. So that's when we started looking at asking these questions: your drivers, your vision, your alignment, what are the risks, what are the governance policies around it, and then we started to build solutions for companies.
Hmm. And you mentioned a little bit too about the go to market strategy that you started off with the company. Was there a way that you started to get your initial clients and your initial users just to see, hey, this is something that's feasible. This is something that's in demand in the market. How did that look like in the early days?
I don't think much has changed even today. I think customers are more aware. Before it was like, oh, look at this PDF. Now we can communicate against it. I dislike using the word chatbot, because that kind of when because that's what people's idea was when ChatGPT first came out, right? It was like, oh, we'll create a chatbot, but it's that horrible chat that we visit websites in that frustrates all of us. Used to that as an example, right? Like that's not what we want, and they were like, yeah, let's not do that. So we started with what we called a conversational chat, and everyone had PDFs, everyone had documents. So that was like the low-hanging fruit. It's like, let's start to uncover unstructured data because everyone has it. There's a lot of it, and no one's doing anything with it. So I think the industry has matured from 18 months ago, where that was the cool thing to do, is like, wow, I can chat against my document or my PDF. Now it's like you saw. Now it's like vision based. It's more real. Can we do it on the edge? Can we augment our platform with something? And then now we're having these, when we ask about value and adoption, we don't have to sell it. Now it's people are asking us, how do we derive value? How do we increase adoption? So those are as the technology matures, the industry, people are maturing with it, and therefore it's forcing the conversation to change. So now it's really, yes, the LLM is there, AI is there, but now we're starting to see complex solutions where at times we'll have to use machine learning alongside AI, because AI can't do everything today. It's getting better, but it's not the end all and be all.
Mhm. And you think that about that too, because I spend a lot of time in LinkedIn, and that's also how I found you. But I see so many LinkedIn posts, like pretty much every week, of AI is going to be replacing your job within the next 4 weeks, or it's just like a lot of, maybe a little too much fear mongering about it. Some of it, like, I understand the trivial work or the repetitive work might be true, but a lot of it, I see that it's at least AI can enhance things, but we might have to just point it in the right direction, still have a lot of human interaction with it. What are your thoughts with that as well?
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you're a person at a job, don't be lazy, right? Be productive, add value to the company. Is AI going to replace jobs? I mean, that's a very broad statement to make. I think we're all very productive today. Like, just before joining this call, I was on an interviewing engineers, and in my job application, engineers were using AI to generate their answers. You know, not very smart. you know, so without humans, how good is AI today, right? We talk about when we talk about adoption, when we talk about risks, when designing a solution, we always have the human in the loop, right? So our framework is that you've got to have people in the middle to continue to help validate a solution. Does it help with coding? Yeah, absolutely. It's incredible. Now you can write code and tell it to, comment your code, validate that. Now, who can do peer reviews with your code? And the AI can do it. Does it mean that you don't need to know anything about programming? Don't think so. So I think it has its place. I think we're still quite a way off, but it's exciting. But if anyone that's listening and you're an employee, I think the days of sitting behind the desk and snoozing are over. You have to be productive at least, because people are going to be looking at augmenting or replacing mundane tasks with this tech, and I think that's exciting.
No, absolutely. One of the questions too that we had in the last interview, and I'm actually really curious to know your answer. We have a few engineers who watch these live streams, and I myself also worked as an engineer, I think now 3 years ago. But uh, there were there was a lot of talk about that the junior engineers or entry level engineers, they that would completely disappear, that role, and it would just be senior level engineers who would be hired. So how would the learning process go if you're coming straight out of university or out of college and wanting to get a role maybe at Microsoft? Uh, what are your thoughts on the replacement of AI, even for like the bottom tier engineers?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have a son finishing his undergrad this year, and that's very real. And my younger one starting college, so it's it hits closer to home than you think. I think, yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, I have no easy answer, and it is a regularly discussed topic in our house, in our friend circle. And I think grads just have to do more. Not the answer that you want to hear. Get internships, work for free during your degree, get experience. Uh, will those jobs disappear? I think, and it's a double-edged sword, right? Like when we're designing solutions, companies come to us and say, we want to do this. And then we'll say, okay, they'll take 4 weeks. Then I'm like, 4 weeks? But I can ask ChatGPT a question and it'll give me the answer immediately. And I'm like, yeah. So now we're in this world of, oh yeah, engineering isn't real anymore. It should just work, right? Just get this done by end of the week. And so setting these expectations that still, when you develop these solutions, they take a little time, right? Developing a POC is not the same as developing a production rollout. You're not hardening your solution when you do a POC. And so to go back to your question, with grads, I think you have to, a degree by itself is not going to cut it anymore. And there's plenty of learning out there. Microsoft has free learning, so does Google. Uh, so get, you know, your evenings, weekends outside of your schoolwork. I think you're going to have to get some experience, reach out to companies, do some internships. Uh, but coming out of the gate, you have to be smarter than I think maybe when it was before AI.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm answering the question, but
No, it did, and it also like go on to another topic that I wanted to touch on because I was doing a little bit of research about you before the call, and um, speaking of going on online courses, I saw that you have one on Udemy, the Microsoft Masterclass, and I was curious because when I was again back in my engineer days, uh, I learned I think more from like Udemy courses than I did in school, if I'm being honest with you. So, how did you start the Udemy course, and why did you start doing Udemy courses?
yeah, a good friend of mine, his name's Sawyer. We were looking for ways, even for us to learn, and this is when we were at Microsoft and Fabric was about to go GA, and the best way to learn is by doing. So both of us kind of jumped in, and outside of work hours, we developed this course, and it's in line with Microsoft's goal of do more, be better, be collaborative. And so it was a learning experience for us. Like neither of us had developed a training course, but it forced us to learn areas of the product that maybe we didn't know about. We were well versed in the various areas of the product, but yeah, I think those learning platforms are rich in content. Uh, even even you know some instructor-led courses help, and then a lot of times you're able to reach out to instructors and peers and learn from them. I think it's invaluable. You're right. It depends on, like, everyone's learning style is different. So you've got to find a way that works for you. And if a self-paced, instructor-led course is good for you, then absolutely. There's so much learning out there today. There's no excuse that I don't know something, I don't have time, I'm too busy. Doesn't fly anymore.
When you were when you were building these courses, I thought of building a course back in the day, but I never, I guess I never got to it, or I didn't prioritize it as much as I should have. Uh, was it? I mean, I guess the question I want to ask was it fun when you were building the course?
We learned a lot. Fun is subjective. We had a goal, we had a deadline. So it was our first time, so a lot of stumbling, trying to use the tools.
Mm.
But we worked well together. We still do. So that was in partnership. I don't know if I could have done it by myself, but in partnership, we made it work. And so it was fun. Will I do it again? Not sure. I mean, I've written a book. It's on Amazon. I've done the course. I like to try different things. It's the only way that you can figure out what you want to do, what you excel at, and more importantly, what you don't want to do.
Yeah, it reminds me too of even when you're working on a company or when you start a company too. I think you learn a lot too when you're, like you said, when you were doing the Udemy course, when you're teaching somebody,
Hmm.
or when you're actually like building something. Because I don't know, like for myself, and I think for a few people that have watched have commented before saying that the theory parts and the actual doing part, they're very different from one another. And most people, from at least an anecdotal example of what I've heard, most people they learn better from actually doing it or teaching it. Is that something that you found even as you built your company versus working at Microsoft, or is it different?
Yeah, I mean, at Microsoft, we were always given the latitude to go do, and we were encouraged, go do. And, I mean, like today, the pace of technology, oh my goodness, even when we were developing the Fabric course, Fabric's a great product, but, you know, we would develop something because the product was going GA, and then, next week we'll come back and something in the UI has changed. Okay, now what we did last week is now out of date, right?
Yeah.
And kind of taking that thought process today with AI 360 as well as, yeah, you have to do. And we're building products today where we're trying to reduce the onboarding and training time for people. I mean, every company has a web app out today, right? I don't know who's building client apps, but so now we're building a product where we want to reduce the onboarding time. We want to reduce the training time. So an AI system that helps you train, helps you learn. You ask it a question, how do I do X, Y, Z? And it'll walk you through the steps. And it's going through the application. So that's exciting. But yeah, you have to learn. Like we're interviewing right now, I'm asking very basic Python questions, and people that have responded on the application, yeah, I'm a 5 out of 5 when it comes to Python. And I'm like, okay, so they're unable to answer basic questions. So if you're not doing, you don't know. Some of the stuff needs to be, off the cuff. That you need to know this thing. You can't bluff your way through. So
Yeah.
yeah, hands on. Mhm.
And even while you said it too, I was thinking, um, it's going to be so different to people who are in school, and you said that you have a son who's also in school, that with such a rapid change in technology, like obviously school and university, they have a certain place, but sometimes the curriculums, there's kind of like a bureaucracy and before like certain curriculums get updated. And with the change in technology, you have it like every month. Do you see kind of the maybe there'll kind of be some issues between having the school certificate of anybody who's in computer science right now or engineering versus when they're actually out in the real world?
Yeah, I guess it depends on the degree, right? I think so. When we're hiring, we look at people that have degrees. Now, whether you have an undergrad, you have a grad degree, where's it from? What did you do? I guess in our field, in tech, it matters. You know, if you have a computer science background, it's great. But a lot of my friends, even at Microsoft, they didn't have tech degrees, but they were brilliant at tech. So I think a degree is a good foundation. It shows us that you've got some stability. You have the ability to learn. You have the ability to maybe take a test. Uh, but beyond that, I mean, that's a given, right? It's like that's your bare bones minimum. What have you done beyond that, right? Have you done a course? If you say that, yeah, I haven't learned it or I haven't had time, it's not an excuse. There's just so much out there, and then you just have to learn and figure out what you want to do, which area do you want to go in. And as a student, it's hard to answer that question, right? My kids are having a hard time answering until you start doing, and then you start to figure out. Like my son got work in labs. He's working on a number of projects. He's on LinkedIn. He's posting, but he's in the lab doing work. And now he's starting to figure out. Oh yeah, I don't like that. I like this area, and this is where I want to go. So I think the same in tech, right? Like hands-on, you have to learn it. Degree's good, but what are you doing today?
Yeah, it's like the real life human machine learning.
Yeah. Yes.
When you mentioned too discipline, I again a little bit of research about you, but I did see that you were a fourth Dan black belt in Taekwondo,
Yes.
and some of that also goes into I guess what you do. How does that overlap in technology and in your day to day life?
Uh, yeah, I think the core principles of what we learn in martial arts and in sports, if you excel at sports of any type, those principles of tenacity, of endurance, of, there was a term that we used to, play hurt, you know, it builds character. And I think starting a company, if you read, well, how Bill Gates started Microsoft, how Jeff Bezos started Amazon, right? I mean, Richard Branson. I mean, you hear anyone that started anything, uh, it kind of gives you, there's a common theme behind it. And for me, martial arts has been a part of, I started when I was like, 14, still practice today. But the idea of mind, body, spirit helps you succeed. Like I wrote my book when I was actually training for my fourth dan, and training for your fourth dan and above that is a year-long journey. It doesn't happen overnight, but when you're busy, when you're productive, you can get more things done.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the tenets of Microsoft was teamwork, tenacity, respect. um, and the higher you go in the dans that you get, the principle was learn to fight so you don't have to.
Mm,
So, you know,
discipline.
yeah,
I
building companies is not that different.
Yeah, and it's I I think even for myself, like doing making starting a company, and for anybody else who's listening or watching and starting their company, I think that that's one of the uh, most difficult things too, the mental aspect of it, because sometimes or maybe a lot of times for myself, I'll speak for myself, we like overblow things of like that they're bigger than they actually are, and I think that if you like break things down, then it's the problems are they can be solved a lot easier. Is there a specific attribute, like if there's like one specific thing that you would say to entrepreneurs or any advice that you would give them, what would that be?
Surround yourself with the right people.
Mm.
I think that's key. People ask me, like early on, we were looking for investors, and there was one meeting I still remember, and the guy's like, "Oh, big deal. So what are you doing? 100 people are doing that. What makes you so different?" And it was a very condescending way that he asked it, but you know, if he'd asked it nicer, we maybe given him a nicer response. But and then I thought about it afterwards, and I think it's the people that you surround yourself with. Like for us, why would you come to analytical intelligence for services or for solutions? Why would you want to partner with us? And I feel it's because the partnerships and relationships that we have. I don't think we can do or accomplish anything in silo. In the world of AI, human in the loop, right? We're all still human, and in order to succeed, you got to have a good foundation. Surround yourself with good people, people that are smarter than you. Get rid of the toxic out of your life. Uh, and very early on, a friend of mine used to share with me, he goes, don't share your dreams with everyone because not everyone's going to understand it. And they're going to, human nature is that they will tear you down because of their own securities they're projecting on you. So why would you take on that negative, right? Only share your dreams, your goals, your aspirations with like-minded people that understand what you're doing, what you're chasing, why you're developing it. They will lift you up rather
Mm.
than tear you down.
Yeah.
And when he said that, I was like, in martial arts and sports, even school, we kind of do this anyway, but maybe it's not conscious, right? And if you're a striving entrepreneur, surround yourself with like-minded people that have succeeded, maybe smarter people. Smarter people may not want to be around you, you know? um, but even today, I like to hang with people that are successful, right? Way more than me, so I can learn and be inspired from what they have achieved. I think there's a lot that can go around. Just like someone asked me, you know, why do you build partnerships with other tech owners? I'm like, well, there's plenty to go around. It's just because, you know, they're growing, they're bigger, doesn't mean that there's lack of for me, right? Uh, Rising tide raises all ships. So, you know, positive. So yeah.
No, that's a it's a good point too, because a lot of times I think like the negative side is a lot stronger than the positive one. And when you see like setback after setback after setback, you're like, you know what, maybe some people are right. You know, maybe you they have a point. But it's also good, I think, to keep the balance too, because how do you find out? No, I have to stay the course, and how do you find out that maybe we have to adjust? How do you keep the balance between the two of them?
Yep. Yeah, and then exactly. I mean, negative is by default. It's easy. But reading books, um, you know, we meditate. That's a great way to calm the mind. Meditation helps bring solutions to the forefront. There's a lot of techniques out there. I think there's just a lot of knowledge out there today. You know, by, I mean, today we're seeing lie, cheat, and steal seems to be the default in America today. But I mean, can't let that stop us from doing what's right, running our companies the correct way. You know, with the values and morals that you've been brought up with you know, honesty, integrity, long-term relationships. I think if you stay the course and you know what your North Star is, it becomes simpler. Not easier, but at least simpler.
Mm, yeah, and adding many layers of complexity and getting a
Yeah.
little bit clouded. Would if so if you were starting again, like let's say that you were back at being 25, what advice would you give your 25-year-old self?
Yeah, I often think about that. Definitely work at a company,
Mm,
right? At least 3 4 years. You gotta do the grind. You gotta do the time, and then make the move. Because if you stay longer, whatever you want to call it, the golden handcuffs, or you know, you're doing well, the money's coming in, you know, you're comfortable in the comfort zone. And if you are an entrepreneur, you want to start something, just do it. It's easier to fail when you're younger, than later in life. You know, the failures hit harder, maybe they're bigger. In my book, I talk about, so when I was 20, that's many decades ago. I made a mistake in investment and I lost, I think it was $40,000. So that was Australian. I made an investment in Australia. So that was like, I think, 55, $60,000 as a 20-year-old. All my savings disappeared in one overnight, right? But that slap kind of still hurts today, right? That was a big loss. But that lesson has never left me.
mm.
So don't be afraid to make mistakes, but do it early on. Two kids in college can't afford those mistakes today.
No, but even I think sometimes in the moment, you you look back and it was probably like the worst thing that had happened to you so far. But then you kind of look at it in hindsight and be like, if I didn't have that, if I didn't go through that issue, you're right. Like maybe I would have, well, hopefully not done the same mistake at the same age, but it kind of embedded something into your brain of like you learning that that wasn't the correct decision to do, or that maybe now if I do it again, I would make some kind of different choice. So
Yeah, I think as a society, we're like afraid to fail. You know, when the kids are growing up and they're walking to learning to walk, you're like behind them. Oh, you might fall and hurt yourself. You know, but that's how you learn. So I think as a young person out there today, don't be afraid to fail. It's not a failure. You're not going to stop because of a setback. And you don't think of it as a failure. Think of it as a step back, and you learn. That's how you climb a staircase, right? One step at a time. Um, you're right. It molds who you are, builds character.
Mm. And the last question I would say, I usually like to put the advice to the 25-year-old self question as the last one, but I did skip this one by accident, and I since we do have like a good crowd of AI enthusiasts here, what would you say if you had to? Maybe it's like a big question, but if you had to make predictions of the next 5, 10, 20 years with how rapid AI is coming in, what would you say that that would look like for those next years?
Wow. May not be smart enough to answer that question. uh, wow. Uh, I think I like to follow people that are kind of leading the charge, whether it's the Sam Altmans, the Anthropic, whether it's Google or Microsoft. Watch, learn. Um, don't bury my head in the sand like a lot of people do. I think there's a lot of hype around AI, but so there was when the internet was first born. Right now, it's just part of who we are, whether it's good or bad. I think AI is going to grow. It's going to change. Will it be smarter? Absolutely. Um, but why fear it? Why not embrace it? Be smarter. Learn to use it. Understand it. I think fear exists is because we don't understand something. But oh my gosh, at the pace that this thing is moving, you're right. Every time you come on LinkedIn, there's a new thing, Sometimes that's overwhelming, even for us. Customers will like throw out another acronym at you. Did you know about this? I'm like, no. um, so, bleeding edge, sure, but not too much bleeding where it's detriment. So I think it's exciting. We're embracing it. If you again, I think our main principle is if you understand it, um, maybe it'll be okay. People talk about sentient beings. I'm a sci-fi buff, so I don't know. Who knows? Maybe Skynet won't be born, but
Uh, what's your favorite movie, sci-fi movie?
favorite sci-fi movie?
Yeah,
I think it'd have to be Star Wars.
Star Wars. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
I
gonna
love
create
the
a lot of
genre.
conflicts in the comment section. But yeah, no, I'm a big Star Wars fan. I just wasn't a fan of the last three movies. Were a little bit rough for me to take in.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like the whole Jedi. It's like from being martial arts, like, we in martial arts, you have a teacher, a sensei. So the whole Jedi being of master student, that's real, so,
Yeah,
and then, wouldn't want to travel the stars, right?
yeah, that's a deadly combination, both of those two. But perfect. Well, thank you so much, Hitesh, for taking the time out of your schedule. I really wanted to keep this within the 45 minutes. So thank you again. And if you want to leave people with where they can find you, company name, any details so that they can connect as well.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for reaching out and giving me this opportunity. It's been fun. I think our website's well, we're on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. So ai-inter.com is probably the best way to get hold of us. And, I'm on LinkedIn. Um, so if you want to reach out, please do.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much again,
Yep.
Hitesh, for being on. Hitesh uh, Govind, the founder
Govind.
of. I always have to ask people about how to pronounce their last name before jumping on. Founder of Analytic Intelligence. Thank you so much, and happy to have you on.
Thank you, Jordan. Have a great day. Thank you all.
Take- Bye.
Bye.